Ponytown is a fantastic game. I don't think there's any denying that. There's so much to customize and so much to do that you could spend hours and hours in the game. But the question is, how did it get so big? And how has it changed over the years? What were the updates that turned the game from this ugly, blobby mess to what it is today? Thousands of players visiting constantly, all the time, all day, and so much to do, so many details. How did it go from this sad thing here where you can draw on the dirt and that is it, to this fantastic game? To answer that question, we have to do a very simple thing. We have to go to the changelog. That's right, we have to go over here to the changelog, all the way back to the very first version, and that very first version, of course, is version 0.1.0, where they added ponies and added walking around. That's right, the very first update, the very first feature was actually having characters that you can move around. Isn't that lovely? Isn't that fantastic? The very next update actually resized the tiles to be 32 by 24. Isn't that fantastic? But today, I don't want to go through every single changelog here. I want to go through some notable ones that changed the game forever. Our journey begins literally just a few more updates later on version 0.4.0. They added a basic chat. That's right, you couldn't even chat before version 0.4.0. So if you were there before then, well, congratulations to you, because that is fantastic. Another notable thing happened just before that, where they added character customization. So for the first time ever, you could actually customize the character. This means you could almost always customize your character from almost day one. Not necessarily day one, but you could customize it for a very, very long time. The next big, huge change to Ponytown happened here on version 0.24.0, where they actually added a lot of commands, such as the sleep command, the cry command, the smile command, the ability to think, the ability to sneeze, the ability to blush. Like, you couldn't even blush before then. You can even yawn and make other people yawn. You can laugh and frown and be happy. They added so much emoting and commands for those emotes and things like that through this whole little update here. But that wasn't all they added here. They obviously added the help page. So for the first time ever, if there was an issue that's happening in your game and you didn't know what to do about it, you could actually get help on the help page and see if there was, you know, a mod that you can contact, or FAQ with all kinds of answers to common questions and issues and stuff like that. They added new Apple Sprites, and they updated the grass sprites and things like that. They updated the rules, so the rules had changed forever after this. Before this, you really didn't have that many commands, if any at all. So it was a really cool thing to see that we finally had commands. The next notable thing that changed Ponytown forever is this version right here, version 0.26.0, where they added sitting. That's right, you could not sit at all until the 26th version of the game. Little did they know this would result in this huge trend that happened for years, where people would hump other players by just sitting and standing on them over and over and over again. The whole humping situation that lasted for a very long time. I don't even know why it just died out. I'm glad it did, but for some reason that just doesn't happen anymore, so take it that way you will. But they added sitting a very long time ago, and it changed Ponytown forever because you could finally sit, and it obviously added humping, essentially. Version 0.34.0 was another huge change to the game that changed it forever. The reason why it changed it forever is because, not just because they added face color patterns, but because they added lakes. There was now water in the game for the first time ever, and it was a huge deal. We never had water before. You couldn't go in the water, you couldn't swim, so I don't think you could fly over the water or anything like that. It was just there, and it was an obstacle, and you had to walk around it. But it was kind of cool to see water finally added to the game and all that sort of stuff. It wasn't until the next full version, version 0.35.0, where they finally added flying. You could use the C key or the up arrow button thing on your controller, or even use the /fly command to actually fly. And of course, they had to add the ability to fly above the water and the ability to boop while flying. This flying mechanic was a huge deal when it came out, because for the first time ever, players started to think, man, this is like a big deal. Like, maybe they're gonna add like cool things for the unicorns now. Maybe we'll have cool things for the earth ponies now and stuff like that. So all these theories and stuff came up of like what they're gonna do with the mechanics of like having a horn and not having a horn and things things like that. And for the first time ever, we had so much to discuss about, even though the update was so tiny and they added just one tiny little thing. Of course, that ability to fly over water was another huge deal because now you could get access to certain areas that you couldn't get to before. This next one is not going to seem like a big deal, but it actually kind of is when you think about it. Version 0.36.0. They increased the map size, so obviously that's a big deal, but they also added new locations and a road system. This road system is possibly the first indicator that the ability to click on the grass and make grass art and stuff like that was gonna die off. At this point, we weren't sure what was gonna go on with it. Obviously, players were just trying to delete the paths immediately with the shovel and things like that, trying to get rid of all the grass because that was obviously a thing that you could do. Of course, they immediately tried to erase the road system that Ponytown added and stuff, and it was kind of a fun time to be on there. I remember when they added the paths and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure I was there around that time, and we would just block all the paths. We would just completely erase the paths. Eventually, it changed where you couldn't edit the paths, or you could edit the paths, but the paths themselves would reset every couple of seconds or something. But it was a fun time to be there because you could finally mess with paths and stuff like that. And this road system here was the first indicator that the grass art was going to die off. We just didn't realize it yet. And so I think that's why it's a big deal, because grass art was such a big deal for the longest time, and this right here is of course an indicator that it was going to die out. This version right here, version 0.40.0, where they added the chat log. That's right. Before this, you just kind of had to guess what the other person said if you missed it, or just ask them, wait, what did you say? Or you had to talk very kind of slow, because if you talk too fast, your message beforehand would just disappear forever and no one would know what it said, because obviously there is no way to check it. So this changed the game forever, because now you could go back on messages and read them and call people out on their lies if they're lying, or of course see what you missed. This version here, 0.44.0, was another big game-changing feature that happened in Ponytown, where they added the action bar. It seems such a trivial thing, but the action bar allows you to create actions and use actions so fast and easy, and this was such a useful thing for role plays or just overall communication, and it was just a great thing to have, and it was just amazing that it was there, and it changed the game forever is what I'm saying. And we need to learn to appreciate the action bar, because I feel like it's underappreciated these days because it's such a trivial feature. And I know you've all been waiting for it, but version 0.47.0 was another huge game-changing feature, update, whatever you want to call it, that added the friends list. They also, of course, added whispering and things like that, which was such a huge deal, because now you could actually friend people and know if they're online, of course, and whisper other people if you want to, and so much was now possible. And it's such a trivial feature that is just insane to think about that we didn't have it for the longest time, but here we are at version 0.47, and we have it, and we're going to use it forever after that. And it's just an amazing thing to have, because of course it's huge and it's game changing. Another huge deal for the game was when they, of course, added the harbor and the party island map and the party island music tracks and all of that party island stuff, because for the first time ever we could hop into a party and have a place to go that was private and away from everyone. Of course, this was used in a lot of sus ways, I guess you could say, but it was obviously a very nice thing to have. Version 0.48.0 added these things. Huge deal, because it changed the game forever, and that is always a wonderful thing to have. Version 0.50.0 was another huge change, another big deal, something that changed the game forever. And that is when they combined the Portuguese and Spanish safe servers into one. They of course added their own new 18+ Russian server, and the biggest change of all that changed the game forever is swimming. That's right, more than 50 versions of the game later, they added swimming to the game, where you could now swim in the water and cross bodies of water, or just kind of lay in there or vibe or do whatever like that. Before this, the only way to get across a lake or a pond or something like that was to fly over it, and there was no way to do any other weird thing like that. You just kind of were there, and it is what it is, and you can now swim over it, and that changed the game forever, because of course swimming is something that we do all the time in the game without even thinking about it. Now, of course, another huge thing about this was that they added a pickable pear and banana. That's right, they added the banana in version 0.50.0, and you can't tell me that that was not game changing. The very next update was also huge and game-changing, where they added the party house on the party island. You can now go into the party house and customize it, essentially. They added new objects for the party house. They added dark and locked outlines, which was a huge thing. You don't realize it, but there's so many characters right now in Ponytown that you pass every single day, or even characters that you're probably using right now that are using darkened locked outlines. That was such a huge game-changing thing because it allowed for so much potential and possibilities in the game. And of course, they added permanent hides, so you could now permanently hide a player forever. If they were fucking with you, you could just hide them forever and never ever have to deal with them ever again. And if you wanted to deal with them again, you could of course go to your account settings and redo that. Version 0.52.0 was another huge game-changing update that added the caves. They added, of course, the cave soundtracks and these bunnies that are around the map. They added these directional signs to help you find out where to go. They added these ropes for the first time ever. And of course, they added building and removing walls in Party House using the saw tool. The saw tool wasn't even a thing. Then, of course, you could add furniture and, of course, delete things with the broom and things like that. This was one of the biggest updates ever, and I still remember how this went down. They teased the caves for the longest time. They had this little mine looking thing, and it was boarded up, and it said restricted, and you couldn't access it for the longest time, and then boom, they dropped this update. The caves were available. They had cave sounds in there. There was bunnies on the map now. There was directional signs everywhere. People were running around with ropes, and I was like, where are these ropes coming from? And of course, you could customize your house now, and of course, there was a carrot field in the top right corner of the map, which was the only thing that we should care about. I'm sorry, that was a joke, obviously. But of course, they added character descriptions and things like that. They added new emotes and all these wonderful things that changed the game forever. And some of these things, like the maps, have not changed since version 0.52.0. That's right. We are like 50 updates past this, and we still haven't had another update on the caves. Like, we haven't had any change on the caves once. Well, I won't say that. We did get one tiny little change on the caves, which was just they removed like one pile of dirt somewhere or something. And that was the only change that we've had 50 updates ago. More than 50 updates ago. This is insane that we still haven't had any changes to the caves. But it goes to show that there's so many game-changing things that happened for the longest time. Of course, I can go on and on and on and on and on. All day long, talking about all kinds of changes here, but you get my point. The game has changed so many times over the course of years and years and years, and it has truly gone from this weird game right here where you could draw on the dirt, and that is pretty much it. You can't even communicate with anyone. There's no way to talk to anyone. See, I'm trying to type. I'm trying to hit enter and type. There's just no way to do it. There's nothing that you can do in this game. Can you even boop your character? Is that like an Easter egg? No, there's not. There's not even anything like that. There's literally nothing you can do in this. You can't even expand this island and build out here in the water. You just can't. And so that is kind of how the game Ponytown went from this weird, whatever this is, well, to this game here where there is players all over the place, directional signs, houses and party islands that you can customize and stuff. And it is just wonderful to see what the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? You know what? I'm not gonna ask questions. Anyway, moving on. Moving on. I do hope that you enjoyed this video, this little look at some of the most important updates that Ponytown has had throughout its history. This was a long project to do because I had to go through the changelog multiple times, and the changelog is quite large. And it also took a little bit of time to actually find that little early, I guess, demo you could call it of Ponytown and stuff like that. And it took forever to find that, even though it was in my Discord server somewhere, and I just, for some reason, couldn't remember who was the one that originally shared it. But it is what it is. Anyway, I do hope that you enjoyed the video. It's a fun little thing to do and think about because Ponytown has truly come a long way since 2016. And this video obviously isn't here to say, oh, the game has taken so long to develop, it needs to be developed faster. It was here to basically say, hey, look, games take a long time to develop, obviously, right? It takes a very, very long time to make a game, and Ponytown devs are doing an amazing job, especially with all the madness of custom servers that ended up interrupting them for a while, but that's a whole other story. Maybe I'll eventually make a video someday talking about the complete history of Ponytown and going more in depth on what the struggles and issues that Ponytown has faced throughout its time and its life cycle and stuff like that, or maybe I'll make a proper documentary on it someday, who knows? But for now, like I said, that's going to have to do it for the video. So I do hope that you enjoyed. And if you did, please do feel free to like, subscribe, share, and do all of those wonderful things like that. Because when you do those wonderful things like that, not only do you get access to wonderful content such as this, but you also get to become wonderful yourself. And I think we all want that. So do those wonderful things. And until next time, stay wonderful.